Hey, welcome back into the podcast. Today we're talking about a topic that has come up a lot with our heavy winter here in northern Mass. So if you are tired of shoveling your driveway, your roof, if you live in a house that is requiring a lot of maintenance, a lot of cost on heating, you're experiencing the surge in your energy prices.
Right.
This podcast is for you. We're talking about how to downsize, the steps that you need to take to at least get the ball rolling. So that's the question we get. So once again, my name is Ken Angst, team leader of the Angst real estate team. We talk about a lot of real estate related topics on this podcast: how to buy, sell, downsize, invest, everything that you want to know. Like our channel. It's a great channel to learn about real estate and hopefully make you more educated. So today we are welcomed by Lena Bolin with Wholesale Mortgage. How are you doing?
Good. How are you today?
Good. If you missed our last podcast, go check it out. It's about, if you're a seller out there, how to make your home more saleable to buyers out there. So, but today we're talking about downsizing. So we get a lot of calls. Just had a client that has 6 feet of snow in our house. So last night we had someone go up and shovel it off before the rain here. So it's a big topic, especially if you're getting up there a little older and thinking about downsizing. So you're going to want to watch this video. So Elena, we're going to talk about 6 different tips, and we're going to kind of just go back and forth about what we see working with people in this situation. So the first thing is you need to be emotionally ready.
Right.
What do you see dealing with people who are downsizing on the emotional side?
It's mostly attachment to stuff
Yeah.
in their house. A china hutch, a big table that your family has eaten at for a couple decades, spare bedrooms that nobody's using anymore. So it seems funny, but it's not. It's a big deal to these people. But if you, as a seller, prepare yourself, just knowing to begin to think about these things, it really does help. Just get ahead of that.
Yeah. So you have to be emotionally ready. So we're never going to try and rush you into it. It's a big decision, especially as you get a little older. But, if the time is here, then emotionally speaking, you got to make sure your family's on board.
Right.
Make sure that you kind of know where you're going, and make sure you have the organizational setup for that. So some of the mental hurdles that we see that are out there are obviously the memories. We deal with a lot of people who've lived in their house for 30, 40 years.
Yes.
It's a long time. So a lot of memories with kids, family members, husbands, wives. So that's one of the challenges. And then the other thing is that's very overwhelming. We see a lot of people struggle with it. Is being able to tackle and get rid of or thin out possessions. What do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, it's like my favorite subject. I think it's popular with a lot of us right now is organization. Right. I'm sure you see a lot of TikToks and YouTube videos about home organization. If you really dive into that side of things, it helps you get rid of a lot.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that a simple life is a better life in that way.
That's a great point.
There's a lot of things that you'll see in your closet that you don't touch for 10 years. So do you really need a closet that big? I mean, we all love it. I won't lie. But, there's things that you can really get rid of that just don't get touched or used as often. Or like a lot of people will have, grown up in a time where their family didn't have a lot of money. So to them, money and wealth was things. If you let go of that because you know that you have grown out of that stage of your life, it's really comforting to be able to get rid of things. It really opens you up to a new life, to feel organized and purge things.
Simplicity is great, especially if you're downsizing. You're probably going. We see people all the time going from a house that's 4,000 square feet to 2,000. So it's a challenge. So the next thing you want to consider is make sure that you are talking to your team of professionals. And if you're going to buy a house, obviously you need a lender. If you're going to turn around and downsize to a smaller house and you don't have cash, you got to talk to a really good realtor. Hopefully you're talking to the Angst real estate team. We are knowledgeable about this topic and would love to help you. Make sure you're talking to an attorney, and make sure you're talking to your accountant, because you need to know the tax consequences of selling a house, particularly if there's a spouse that's passed away or if there's been a death. There's a lot of tax consequences that people don't realize. So make sure that you have all those people in place. And if you're working with Elena and I, we have contacts for all those people.
Yes.
Next thing is we recommend that you assess your home. And what do I mean by that? And we kind of talked about this off. Make sure, your existing home has a homestead. And we have done 2 to 3 minute podcasts on all these topics. I'll link above, down in the bio. Take a look. Make sure your house is homestead. You can always call us. Make sure that you have notifications for recorders. We it wasn't our client, but we had a realtor in town almost sell a house. It was a raw piece of property to someone that didn't own it. There's a lot of fraud going on. So these notifications, I'll link above. You get notified if there's any changes to your property.
Right.
You want to put that on here. It's a very simple process. You put your name, email, and your APN, and voila. Make sure, this is a big one, make sure that you haven't had an insurance review in the last 12 months.
Right. Very important with values changing the way that they do right now.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you've owned it for 40 years, you may not have the insurance coverage that you need.
Right.
And I'm not talking just on replacement value. Do you have an umbrella? Depending on, these are all the things that you need to talk to your attorney and your real estate or not real estate, but your person that does your insurance.
Right.
So, next thing we like to talk about is something we just talked to an excellent attorney on. Do you have a trust in place?
Super important.
Yeah, super important because we deal with trust companies all the time, and if you have a trust in place, something happens to you, God forbid, it's a lot easier to sell and get to the beneficiaries. Otherwise, the beneficiaries are dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of undue things that are out there that you don't need if you have trust in place.
Right, and the trust is ultimately your family's protection against the IRS, if we're being super frank.
Probate.
Yeah.
No, the state.
Yeah, you've paid enough in your lifetime to the IRS, so you want to keep the IRS's hands off of as much of that money as possible. So that trust will really help you in that way.
So make sure you assess your current home, get all these things in order. I'm working with someone, we've worked with several people here recently. These are the steps that we're doing, and it kind of helps you get the momentum rolling and get some things done. What I've found is people have a block and they're overwhelmed, but if you start breaking it down in these steps, it gets the ball rolling and it gets the momentum, and then once the momentum goes, it goes.
Yes.
So, all right, so now we're going to talk about evaluate home for improvement and fixes. So what are we talking about? You're going to sell your home. Any comments on improvements?
Yeah, I mean, you think about it as a homeowner. If you're sitting in your house for even just 10 years, do we let things slide? Yes, because I can do it later. It's just called primarily deferred maintenance. So you just want to look at the basic things that if you put yourself in the eyes of a buyer and walk around your house, you'll find several things that you can work on. And the big thing to me is always kind of the curb appeal. You just step back to the street and look at your house and look around. What's going on with the neighbors too? If you look at things like that, it can make a big difference for you as a seller.
No, that's why we have her on. Deferred maintenance. The other thing that we're recommending in this market, because we're going to be upfront with you, it's a lot harder to sell our home. Prices are down.
Right.
We're seeing $100,000, $200,000 drops on prices. We recommend getting a seller pre-home inspection done.
Right.
Now, what this does is, because you haven't been in your attic, you haven't been under your crawl space, so have someone crawl around, give you a report, and what this does is it gives you a list of items that you can sit down with your realtor or another professional and decide, should I fix these or should I give a credit?
Right.
And it gives you leverage in the negotiations once you do get in contract.
Yeah.
And, in my opinion, you got to talk to an attorney, I think it limits your liability, because you can always say at the end, hey, I didn't get in my crawl space, I didn't get upstairs, but I hired someone to do it. So I'm trying to be as transparent as possible.
Right.
So.
And you really want to feel good about every big transaction in your life, and that's a perfect way to feel good and sleep great at night. Is know that you did everything possible that you could do.
All right, and then we'll talk about improvements. It's case by case.
Right.
You got to really analyze it, make sure it's worth it. And some people have very strong opinions on what they should or shouldn't do, and we kind of follow that. And the other big thing is make sure that you don't over improve your home.
Yes.
So what we're seeing, I just sold a house in Field Creek, and we have a lot of people in these older neighborhoods, original owners, lived there for 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's original, right? There's no granite. It's not a high end. It was a beautiful, well-built home, but don't go in there and tear all the cabinets out and spend all this money because people are picky.
Yeah.
Someone might want, a lot of the older houses have carpet in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be going in there and making all these changes. I would make the improvement so it looks good, and then take a little off the list price and let someone else make
Yes.
those improvements.
Yeah, because then you give that buyer the power to button things up in the way that they would want with their touches.
Yep. So, the next thing that we're taking a look at are, you obviously, once you sit down with your realtor, you make the improvements, you get a home inspection, you got to figure out how much your house is going to sell for.
Right. Which is a scary thing to do.
Yeah, especially in this market because things are down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then that's also, once you know that price, you should talk to your CPA. Make sure that what you bought it for and all the tax consequences, because you really need to know the tax consequences when you sell your home.
Right.
Especially if you've had $1 million gain, because you don't get to write all that off. And then it comes into, all right, have you saved all your receipts? Another thing out there, if you're just watching this podcast and enjoying our content, make sure you like our videos. But make sure when you're making improvements to your house, if you bought a house, save all the receipts, because you can offset a lot of these gains if you put a new kitchen in, if you did improvements to the house, put landscape in. That's all stuff that you have to prove to the IRS that you can take off that price so you don't get dinged when you sell it.
And this is not a time cap. This isn't something that you just save them for 3 years or just 7 years. You can save them for decades, and it really does help you at the end of the time frame that you live in that home.
We've helped several sellers recently. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't keep those records. They throw them away, and then at the end you're scrambling trying to figure out how to offset the equity. So take a look at that. And then, so now you know approximately what your house is going to sell for. You minus it if you have a mortgage, and that's how much money you have to play. And a lot of people don't want to spend that, obviously, for downsizing.
Right.
But then you got to start looking for a smaller home. What's your opinion on the challenges of trying to find a smaller home?
It's just tough, like primarily what we already talked about mentally. So you just have to prepare yourself when you go in to look at the homes that, yes, there's going to be less space. If you can just get past that part of it and be prepared, I don't think outside of that it's going to be too difficult. Just the mental part is the number one for me in that way.
Well, and two, this is where you gotta start really downsizing and get rid of stuff that you don't use.
Yes.
So that's gonna, when you start going into a 2,000, I'm working with a lady right now. We're going into half the size houses, and I think she's excited to go do it. But at the same time, I can sense some kind of fear, like, oh, I gotta get rid of all this stuff. But we can help with that. So there's different ways we can help with that, and agencies that can help. So first, you gotta determine the budget. Make sure that it fits your retirement budget, and then you have a house budget. And if you're paying cash, that's great, but make sure you look at taxes, you look at if you're going to get a mortgage. Then you have to start looking around. So what I recommend is you connect with me, you tell me where you want to live, and then we go see houses. And I've done this recently. It's really cool to go and look at 6 to 10 homes. We just did this week. Within a day, I can tell you pretty much the person can tell you automatically, oh, I need 2,000 square feet, I need a 3-car garage, I need this, and get your criteria set.
Right.
And don't panic right now if you're looking, because there's not a lot of inventory. There will be more. I'm assuming that's just kind of how the cycle goes, but don't be discouraged if your house isn't out there right now.
Yeah. Remember, lots of people are still shoveling their way out, and they will list as soon as everything melts.
Hopefully that's not June.
Yeah.
It might be. And then you need to also, the other thing we're seeing is that the home buyers, or the home builders, are being more competitive with their prices.
Yes.
So make sure you take your realtor in there, because once you go in there and you're unaccompanied, then the realtor can't help you. And there are deals and negotiations, particularly now, that haven't happened in several years, that if you have a smart realtor, can get you a better price.
Yes, agreed.
Look into that. And then Elena wanted to talk about this one, because what we're seeing is someone may want a small mortgage. Their mortgage right now is 3%. And voila, they're like, all right, I want a $200,000 loan on a $400,000 house. And the interest rate is?
6.5 on average.
6.5, 7%. So don't freak out about that.
Yeah.
But it is an adjustment, because we haven't had these 6% loans in 10 years.
Right. Yes. Agreed.
So a lot of people, that's a mental hurdle, and you have to look at the price or your monthly payment rather than just the interest rate.
A lot of people will think, well, I'm downsizing, so my same small loan is going to be less. But really what you're downsizing is all the extra space and the things and the
taxes,
lifestyle, the taxes, the
Energy
utilities,
bill,
right?
Maintenance. So keep that in mind, that has to be in your calculus when you determine it. So,
Agreed.
anything else on looking for a smaller home?
Just watch, like you discussed, you brought up already, just watch the property taxes, especially if you move from a home that you've lived in for several years and then you go to a new construction home. Even if you have no loan, your taxes can go from $85 a month to $600 a month. So that's something to really watch in terms of the age of the home, because at that point there's no depreciation applied, or a smaller amount if it's a fairly new home.
So, this is why you watch our podcast.
Yeah. Right.
I have a video marked above. It's one of our most popular watched videos. I talked to the Washoe County assessor. And just keep in mind, when you're buying a new home, the taxes are a lot different, a lot higher versus if it's been depreciated. So if you want to know more about how property taxes are calculated, it is an hour podcast, but he knocks it out in 20 minutes. It does a great conversation. But you may want to consider an older house, because the taxes can be less. But people are shocked. They're like, my house is worth $2 million and I'm moving into a $600,000. Why are the taxes higher?
Yes.
It's because of the age, and that may change. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Good point. All right, so now you've kind of identified a house that you want to buy, and then you have to determine, am I buying the new house before? Do I have the cash to do that? Do I want to sell my house? Do I want to do a contingent sale? So you kind of have to work that out with your realtor.
Right.
Any challenges with that?
Not a ton. Just the best thing to do is, if you need a loan, you just got to go talk to a lender and let your realtor know what's going on in that way, and you just really have a big team behind you.
Yeah. So get in and talk. If you need a mortgage, get in and talk to Elena early on in the process. So no surprises, because otherwise it's tough. You don't want to be, oh, I love this house, I want to put an offer in, and you've never talked to Elena. That doesn't work. You get in, get pre-approved, and that just makes it, especially if you're doing a contingent sale. And contingent sales are back, and people are doing them.
Yeah, agreed.
So.
Yes.
People are more willing. If you're trying to buy a smaller house and you live in a big house, they're willing to allow you, because there have been houses been on the market for 120 days,
right,
to put an offering contingent upon your house selling.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do that, then that's the next thing we're going to talk about, is getting your house ready for sale.
right.
So that's a big job. The cool thing is that we're still early enough in the season where you need to get on this now. A lot of the people, like painters, plumbers, a lot of the people have time right now, and if you wait 2 or 3 months and decide to do this in the middle of summer,
you're gonna wait.
even with our clout with those people, you're 2 to 3 months out.
Right.
So get it done now. First, you need to get a copy of our handbook. You go to our website, sign up for it. We have a digital copy. It tells you all the things that you need to do to sell your house. Second is, we talked about this, pre-home inspection, liability protection, and gives you the nice tidy list of things that you can do. Helps you out, in my opinion, in the real estate transaction, when you can say, here's a home inspection that we had done by a third party. Now, I'm going to be honest with you up front. I would say 70% of people still have their own home inspection. We just had one that was very weird, where we had the seller the seller had one done before we got involved by a home inspection, and then the buyer said, we want our own guy to go in there, and we get the home inspection back, and it's the same person by the same company. So we don't know what that was about, but there you go. But so anticipate, and don't be disappointed and just put yourself in your shoes. You're going to want your guy going there.
Right.
So, but sometimes we use such good home inspectors that they're well known to realtors and other people out there, they just end up using it. But make sure they're going to come back with their own, but typically they don't really find anything. So you're going to figure out what items you want fixed, determine if you're doing improvements. Lynn and I have been doing this a while, and it's in my book. Top 4 things you can do, and I almost like 3, but top 4 in my opinion. Paint, great thing to get done right now.
Right.
My painter's looking for work, so if call me up, I'll give you his number. He's great, good pricing, get it done. Curb appeal, it's hard to do that with 7 feet of snow.
Right.
But we're gonna have some rain, it's gonna melt. Lighting, and then you get down to flooring. So anything else that you and your...
I think even with the snow into play, curb appeal is still the number 1 for me. You can still, even with 6 inches of snow, 12 inches of snow, on your home and on the roof, put your trash cans in the garage. Take a look around. Pick up little pieces of
Declutter.
trash. Yeah, it's important.
I missed that one. Actually, paint it should be declutter.
Right.
But we've already talked about that. Sorry, I kind of missed that
Yeah.
one. But declutter, and we can help with that.
Yes.
And that's a very challenging thing.
Mm-hmm.
But declutter to a point where you understand what's going to take to move in a house that's probably 2,800 square feet.
Right.
So those are all the things that you need to do to get your house ready, and that doesn't take 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
Get it going now.
Yes.
Even if you're going to do it a year from now.
Yeah.
Start working on it, especially if you've been in your house 30, 40 years.
Right.
Because there's deferred maintenance and you should start working on it. So,
yeah.
And then marketing tips. So these are basically, well, what are we going to do to market your house? So if you're talking to a realtor out there, these are some good points. Hopefully you're talking to us. But if you're not, you can talk to your realtor and say, hey, you need a professional photographer, videographer. These are pretty standard nowadays. Particularly, this is more important than ever. The market is a lot more competitive, right?
Very.
And it's not, houses are sitting for 60, 90 days. They're not flying off the market. A year ago, you could have your brother take the pictures with the iPhone, slap them up on the MLS. We've never done that, but that's those days are over. You got to get people in. So we're talking professional photos. Drone photography is a very important one, especially if you live up Mount Rose Highway, have a big lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the drone photography is not as good as if you live in Double Diamond, just because the houses are close together.
Right.
It kind of gives you...
It really opens it up too with the drone photography. If you have buyers that are looking from out of the area, it lets them know what the whole neighborhood looks like without trying to use Google Earth. That drone photography really gives them the full picture. It's a great tool.
And we do that. I'm a professional drone, so that's one of my things that we offer. I call it the dollhouse. So it's the 3D imaging is another good one.
Right.
Especially if you have a beautiful house you're really trying to show off. It brings you in, and then you can walk around to the different locations.
Right.
Digital marketing. So you have to really get out there and spend money, have your realtor spend money on putting it out on all the channels, not just the MLS, not just realtor.com. You got to promote it on YouTube channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere, and get it out. The last thing is, one of the biggest things that we're doing for our clients is open houses are back. So get your neighbors in there. We're seeing a lot of people. We sold a lot of houses recently and said, the neighbor comes in, my brother, sister, family member wants to move in next door.
Yes.
And they don't ever say that until they come in and look at the house.
Yeah.
Any comments on that?
I totally agree. It's funny because it's more post-COVID things, right? People decided that they can take jobs in different industries so that they can be closer to their family. They appreciate the idea of being near family a little more when you were forced to be separated.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing tons of family move into the area to take advantage of being a Nevada resident for all of its tax advantages and to be closer to family. So really, I'm seeing a lot of that same thing.
So those are all the tips for marketing. Number 6 is the most important, and Elaine's going to talk about this. Pricing your home based on 2023.
Right.
What do you see?
You just have to be realistic. If you think that you're going to get the same price or the same valuation that you saw on your home for 2022, what's going to happen is you're likely going to see your home sit on the market for an extended period, and someone's going to come in and take advantage of that. Because even after you go through several price reductions, people start to think something's wrong with your house.
Yeah, stigma.
And the longer it sits, the more problems you're going to have in that way. So if you just start out with the right number from day one, even if you have a small reduction, that's to be expected and okay. But that's when you have to look at the other strategies like offering a buyer a buy down credit and things like that.
We talked about this, yep.
Yeah.
We talked about it in the other video, so link it above. So price it right.
Yes. Number one.
Yeah, and the data's out there. The beautiful thing about the state of Nevada is all the records are out there.
Yes.
The numbers don't typically lie. So make sure that you're looking at it from a lens of being modest. And, typically what we're talking about is downsizing. So oftentimes you need to sell this house. And if you're in a contingent sale, you can't have your house sit there for 6 months. Because most times someone might give you 2 or 3 months to sell your house.
Right.
And if you start up high, then you kind of lose all the momentum.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just avoid living in limbo. Don't let your home sit that long. If you need to take drastic measures, just listen to the professionals on your team, and that really will get you the best result.
Yep. And like I said, you need to make sure that you're not doing this by yourself.
Yeah, no.
And you need more than a realtor and a lender. You need an accountant and an attorney.
Right.
Big things, and make sure you're looking at all these things. So if you have any other questions, send us a direct message, call us, look us up on our website, livinginsouth.reno.com. What's your contact information, Elena?
WMSReno.com.
Okay. You guys have a good week. Be careful with all the rains coming. Make sure that you're preparing. Everything's charged and get ready for an interesting storm coming up. So.
Yes.
Till next time, you guys take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.